Let me ask Mr. Amadi this. What quantum of transparency do you foresee, given the traction that the build-up to this election has built? What level of transparency do you foresee at the end of this process?
Well, we can talk for the processes that's been put in place. And, you know, I think many Nigerians are still of the view that the elections management and operations is still the way it used to be, perhaps pre-2015, where people snatch ballot boxes. Like my colleague in the Lagos studio mentioned, ballot box snatching is no longer fashionable. I think this President INEC has made a ballot box snatching, you know, unimpressive and unfashionable to say the least. You snatch ballot boxes, it makes no meaning. The elections in that area is cancelled. And so talk about writing figures and sexing up numbers. These things are really departing. So you have seen an incremental improvement to, you know, present more transparent processes in election management and operations. And I'll explain some of these things. With the deployment of the card reader technology and the PVC, and you had the director of ICT in your studios here, that move alone shut down the practice of, you know, addition of numbers. If it was possible to just add numbers, you would have seen that what we had in 2015 would have been different. You see, in 2015, states that normally return very huge figures, for example, in Rivers State, that still has an unprecedented record of returning 98.9% voter turnout in an election. If they had done that magic, I tell you, President Muhammad Buhari would not be the president. But because of the limitations, the transparency engendered by the PVC, the card reader technology, you can only play around with the figures of people that were accredited on the day. The same thing applied to Delta State and Akwa Ibom. So they were hamstrung by that technology. Now, what the President INEC has done is also to further liberalize results, you know, the results are released. Unlike before, where INEC officials determined to a very large extent how results are. Today, you have what you call the form EC60E, which in local parlance is known as the People's Results Sheet. Any political party that is serious would know whether it has won or lost the election within 45 minutes of the end of ballot after counting. Because as soon as you finish counting, the form EC60E is placed on the wall at the polling units for every Tom, Dick, and Harry with a smartphone, a very cheap smartphone, to become an INEC on its own. All you need to do is snap it and send to your various social media channels. So even before INEC does its cumbersome process of moving from point A, you know, they have to leave from the polling unit, they go to the Ward Collation Center, they go to the local government, get to the, you know, it's a very long process. Even before the INEC chairman in the so-called situation room, the INEC all omnipotent, omnipresent situation room in Abuja even knows it. The average Joe on the street with a phone knows what the results are. And so it becomes very difficult for anybody to manufacture numbers or anything, because the results are already there. And then those are some of the transparency measures that have been introduced. So when you look at the processes put in place, you cannot say for a certainty that, okay, like I said, elections are processes. And you cannot say if that, okay, there are some measures of transparency. However, that doesn't mean that there are no, you know, weak points where, you know, enemies of democracy may want to latch upon to compromise the system. You have situations where, as we speak, and make no mistake about it, Nigeria is the only country where you put sensitive and non-sensitive materials in the treasury, in the vote of a CBN. I've never heard about it, of it anywhere in the world. And that also tells you that we realize, and like Jude tried to mention, that elections are a true reality of the situation or the environment that we live in. there is a clear and a clear and present danger of voting malpractice, carried out by politicians. So you put these things in the treasury or in the votes of the CBN because you want to guarantee a process. You invite all the agents, the civil society organizations, international local observers to come to that place and see. These are part of the transparent measures also.
We need to wrap this up soon. Let me
answer your question more directly with a yes or no answer. Am I confident with the processes being put in place that it will guarantee transparency? I think yes, if the processes are respected.
Okay. Go ahead.
One more, another one for me. No, yes, the Mr. Olo. Okay, I'll go to my constituency, the hinterland. Many people are going to be voting for the very first time. Do you think they have do you think they are educated enough to ensure that they do not have voided votes, Mr. Olo? Okay, Mr. Igwabo, do you want to take on that? Do you the first-time voters, you mentioned them the other time, do you think they are educated enough?
I don't think there are any complications about thumb printing. The only difficulty might be ensuring that your thumbprint is inside a smaller box on the ballot paper.
So this use what? It can't be the thumb.
No. I'm not educating anybody as to what to use, but I'm saying
the finger to make it easy.
Based on the number of political parties that are involved in this election, as opposed to the previous elections, what I have seen on TV, because I haven't seen a sample of the ballot paper, it would appear that the thumb printing space is smaller.
So if you have a fat finger,
if you have a fat thumb, that's why people are advising to use the
forefinger.
The forefinger. If you have a fat thumb, it's likely to spill outside the space that you are supposed to thumb printing. But that's pretty easy. I mean, if you really know what goes on.
But that's why.
Excuse me. Okay. If you know what goes on in the hinterland.
But are you also
please.
If you know what goes on in the hinterland.
What goes on there?
Okay, so which of the hinterland is this?
I'm saying
are they the same
in remote.
Yes.
Inaccessible areas. And then you will not be worried about this development because they will take their finger. Somebody must take their finger and put it where he wants it put.
But what do you think about the dating?
Gentlemen,
the date on the ballot paper. Should it reflect the previous postponed elections last week?
Well,
should it reflect
whatever date.
Will it be looked at as valid instead of the one we're expecting tomorrow?
I don't want to pass any judgment, but any papers that INEC will bring out tomorrow to say these are the valid papers for this election is what we have to thumbprint on.
All right, that's where we have to anchor. At this point, Ide Igwabo, appreciate your coming on this morning. We also do have Chima Amadi, who is of the Center for Advocacy and Transparency, as well as Jude Ilo, Head of Office, that's Ostiwa Open Society Initiative for West Africa, Nigeria Office. Gentlemen, thank you all for coming on this morning. Well, the verdict, yes, we'll continue with the news track, and then we'll also have the poll stream where we'll take a look at all that you've compiled